Okay.
Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews More, the Women's Broadcast TV Network, Women on TV.tv, and IT 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. So I've been wanting to do this show for a long time because not only is this young lady one of my friends, she's saved me many times through various situations, but also she's an AVN Hall of Famer, which I was most proud of. She's gone through a lot of stuff and it's always funny. Plus she's a good cook. So she's the one, the only KiKi Dare. Hello, young lady. Good to see you. We haven't seen each other in a while, but yeah, we last saw each other New Year's Eve. That was like 7 months ago or whatever now, you know?
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Talk about what's been happening with you, what's been happening in the world of adult, because I have no idea. With COVID-19 and everything like that, I don't know about any new testing. I know people haven't been really working. But I know on the mainstream side, there's been people who've been married for 20, 25, 30 years, and all of a sudden they're getting divorced. You see it with celebrities, but I'm talking about people in general. And the people who thought they could live together, they're like, nope, I can't take this. I don't like you. I'm gone. I'm out of here. What's been happening on the other side? Because I talked to Brittany Andrews and I'm talking to you.
Well, things are really, really difficult, to say the least. In adults, there's a governing body called the Free Speech Coalition. They run a third-party database called PASS. That is designed to let performers, producers, directors know that talent has done their STI testing every 2 weeks and they're either clear to work or they're not clear to work. Positive for one of numerous STIs, including trichomoniasis, syphilis, hepatitis B and C, HIV, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. Now, with COVID, it threw a monkey wrench in everything. Basically, the largest testing facility is Talent Testing Services. And they had been fighting with the Free Speech Coalition for a long time, and they couldn't come to an agreement on how to handle COVID testing. So TTS withdrew from the PASS system. CET, which is cutting edge testing, is still involved with PASS, but they don't have quite the ability to offer the COVID testing that Talent Testing does. Talent Testing is doing a $35 test with the talent panel and then $75 standalone, which I'm a huge critic of because having a testing company myself, I don't know how they're getting that kind of pricing. Most people, if they're doing COVID testing, you're looking at, $120 to $160, $200 to do that test. So there's a lot of controversy out there right now within the adult community. I'm sorry?
Would that be a month?
No, that would be per test. No, that is per test. The way that so far people are doing COVID in the adult industry is you have to do a COVID test 24 hours before every single shoot. And that goes for talent, crew, director, anybody on set. And they're also doing extremely small closed set only right now. So, we're talking a cameraman, a director, talent, makeup artist maybe, and that's it, as you know, I'm close. They just had to quarantine for 2 weeks, do a COVID test. They're going to be shooting for 8 weeks. And then when they're done, they have to quarantine. Within the entertainment industry is pretty crazy right now. I mean, we still don't know if we're going to have football. We don't know if we do have football, if there will be any fans in the stands. Like, nobody's really made that call yet.
Yeah, it's very tricky on a lot of the stuff. I've been talking to a lot of musical people. A lot of them have been on the show the last 2 weeks. And not only are they frustrated, they're still bewildered because they really don't know. And so one of the things, obviously, is as a lot of them have been doing, and it doesn't matter if you're Mick Jagger or Gene Simmons or whatever, or someone who's coming up, you can basically all do the same thing right now. But there's still those gaps because at least they have some money. But people coming up or trying to get their CDs or whatever out now, it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. So all you can do is go to Spotify or iTunes or, you know, iTunes, and it is difficult and it's frustrating for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was reading an article where they're saying there's a good chance we won't see concerts until 2022 at this point, which that's scary.
Well, you're definitely not going to see them until sometime after March of 21. That's for sure. Can something be done? And I've been telling my friends, think of Woodstock. Find someone who owns property, go and rehearse out there, have people PayPal you or Vimeo or whatever, do a rehearsal and do it for an hour. People will chime on. People always love entertainment. It could work. And why not, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have tons of musician friends that are, broadcasting from their bedroom, or I shouldn't say about bedroom, but from their living room over, Facebook or Twitch or whatever platform they want. And, we're all tuning in and listening and watching the show. And, if I request something and they play it, I Venmo them a tip, and it's not ideal, but it's better than nothing.
Absolutely, because it's still about survival. And I've been telling people this. If you can adjust, adapt, and be willing to change, you'll be okay. If you can't do 2 out of those 3 things, or even 3 out of those things, you're not going to make it. And your life depends on it. Your life truly does depend on it now. Because there's so many people suffering from depression. Think of the people who are single. Like, I'm single, but think of those other people. But I'm doing great. But think of all those other people who might not be doing good, who are having PTSD in their head or anxiety or suffering from depression. Those are the ones I'm concerned about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, luckily with adult work, we have so many platforms now where the performers can, run their own show and make their own money. I'm probably gonna get flack for saying this, and I'm fine with that. We don't really need the production companies anymore.
Right.
I can create my own content and distribute it without the hassle of going to set, dealing with other people, all of that. And frankly, most of the people that are buying my homemade content aren't necessarily interested in seeing me with other people anyway. Most of those customers are, or should I say consumers, are more interested in fantasy-based content where they can imagine themselves being in it with me. And for them, sometimes, a guy or a girl is distracting.
Well, I've always said this. It's one of those things that you didn't see the hints coming one way or another, because it could happen like that. When people started webcamming and doing things by themselves, that's what the consumers were looking for anyhow. So the warning signs were always there. I think that's the case.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I wish I had gotten more involved with, you know, the platform I use mostly, which is OnlyFans. I wish I had gotten involved with that much sooner. Much is, I'd be sitting way prettier than I am right now. But that said, I'm lucky and very grateful for those that have supported me throughout this pandemic on there, because without them, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
A lot of that also goes back to those fans. You remember those days when you would go on tour and dance, or you'd be able to see your fans and friends at conventions, well, that's not happening for a long time either. I know CES, the only thing I know is going to happen. CES will happen, but I don't know how it's going to happen. And think about this. All the Asian companies usually come over from CES. How is that going to work?
Yeah, and on top of that, just about every convention that I know of has gone digital. I mean, the Why Not Summit is going on right now. That's digital. There's some other companies that they're doing their stuff all online as well. And, you know, I don't understand why Exotica hasn't just outright canceled for the year. My guess is there maybe be some sort of contractual issue with them outright canceling. That said, you know, who knows if the Virgin Hotel where AVN is scheduled to be will even be open in January. And who knows if AVN will even be comfortable having a convention. I mean, it seems insane to do AVN in January, considering how many people come home with the AVN flu every year.
Yeah, the interesting thing is even film festivals have gone virtual, which is, I'm not interested in that. I'm already watching enough films online to begin with. I can't tell you which films I would even want to chime in to watch, whether you show me a poster or I see a trailer, because I'm used to saying, okay, we got this coming up, this coming up. Do you want to talk to these people? I have no idea what they're doing. And this is me, and I'm a movie whore. I'm not interested in it right now.
No, I know. I mean, at this point, I keep telling people when they ask me about COVID, you know, I keep saying, listen, have common sense. If you don't feel well, stay home. If you're going to go get tested, and you should get tested, seek out the most likely to be reliable test you can find. That means going and getting a RNA COVID test, because that's going to give you the best full picture of where you stand. And in most cases, that test was developed and has been investigated, and so you know it's a real test. Because unfortunately, COVID testing is the wild, wild west right now. There are so many garbage tests floating around. So make sure you do your research before you choose where you get your test from.
Which one do you see most accurate, in your opinion, right now?
My opinion, the most accurate is the RNA test. So that test actually does a more thorough look at your blood. So imagine, how do I put this? So imagine the PCR, DNA, RNA, HIV test. What that does is that goes in and it looks at certain markers in your blood, because that's the first place that the HIV virus appears, right? So an RNA COVID test kind of does the same thing. I mean, not exactly, but kind of. It's a similar type of test. The antibody test just tells you if you have the antibodies. It's kind of like the ELISA test for HIV, which we know is not a reliable test when it comes to diagnosing an infection. So if you think about it in those terms, that's where I'm coming from as saying that I feel like the RNA test is the way to go. You do have to ask questions when you look at providers, because some providers are only doing the antibody test, and that test, just like the HIV ELISA test, tends to be full of false positives, false negatives. It's a very unreliable test. Unfortunately, because there's something called emergency approval, we've got a market that is flooded with tests, more tests than the FDA can actually approve quickly. So they just approve everything first, and then they go back and investigate and yank the ones off the market that are not good tests, that are fake tests, because there are fake tests out there as well. So, make sure that you are careful, people, and make sure you do your research when you get tested, please.
What are you hearing from your fans and just friends in general of what they may be going through? Because I know when they're reaching out to certain people, just sometimes looking at you or just hearing your voice, they feel a lot better. What are you hearing from them?
Well, I mean, I'm hearing from a lot of people that, they're drinking way more because they're home way more.
Right.
I'm hearing that, people are having a hard time with spouses and all of that stuff. I'm hearing about a lot of people that are dealing with the loss of loved ones because of COVID. They've contracted it and lost friends and family. So my advice really is take this seriously. It is real. It's not just some crazy conspiracy. It is a sickness that is killing people and the ones that they love.
Yeah, we've come too far for it to be a hoax, and you have to wear your mask. There's a reason why you have to do that. And I've always told people this: it started from animal to animal, animal to human, human to human, human to airborne. That's where we are. Whether you believe it or not, that's where we are. What's your view on this? Because this is the next thing that's happening, if it hasn't already happened, is being transmitted through sex, bodily fluids. What's your point of view on that? What's your opinion?
So I did see the article about that, and I don't know if I'm quite ready to be all in on that. I think for that one there needs to be more research for sure. But I always tell people it took us decades. I mean, decades to get to the point where we understand the HIV virus and we know how to contain it. We don't know how to cure it, but we do know how to contain it, and we do know how to give those people a very happy, full life. Now, if you think about that for a second, COVID is relatively new. I mean, we're what, 8 months in, 6 months in,
Depending who you ask,
so
it started, yeah. I think it started at the end of September in the US.
So, yeah, exactly. So think about that for a second. We're talking about a virus. We're not even sure if it's a virus or if it's bacteria. Like, the jury's out on that too. So we don't know. It's too soon to have answers. It's too soon for us to understand exactly what we're dealing with. And unfortunately, if this turns out to be anything like HIV, it's going to change life for the next 20 to 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What have you heard from a lot of the girls that you might be talking to, or even some of the male performers? How are they dealing with that? Because they always made less money. They always would work a lot, but they made less money. So if you didn't save your money or you went through your money, how is that going?
Well, a lot of people that were not necessarily taking advantage of platforms like, Just for Fans or OnlyFans or what have you have turned to that. A lot of people are doing what I'm doing, which is hanging back and waiting. I'm not shooting for companies other than myself right now because, one, I refuse to give money to talent testing services because I don't believe in the test that they're offering. And I also have a personal reason for that. But number two, I just don't feel like it's smart or prudent or safe to be on set right now. Not with things being the wild, wild west in the testing world. I just don't think it's a good idea. So most of my friends have not gone back to work. Some have, and that's fine. That's their choice. And I'll still hang out with them. I'll still, you know, consider them my friend and all of that. I just don't know that, you know, I'm ready to just dive in.
Yeah, I've been telling people in the world of entertainment and everything else we've been dealing with, hey, if movie theaters aren't open, don't count the ones in Oklahoma or Texas or Georgia. They're red states for one. But here's the thing. For us movie reviewers, if it's not open in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago, and if it's not open in Chicago, in China, and they're having problems reopening in South Korea, what does that tell you? Because that means they can't figure it out how to do it because it's airborne now. So would I go to the movie theaters? No. Am I curious about the latest movie that would open? No, because everything's been pushed back to next year. The only thing that hasn't been pushed back is James Bond, which is scheduled still for December. But we don't really know because you have to go to the movie wearing a mask. You have to go to the concession stand wearing a mask. You have to leave the theater wearing a mask. But as you're eating popcorn or a hot dog or something, how are you going to wear your mask with other people in the theater?
Oh yeah, I mean, here in Vegas, if a establishment has food, they can stay open. You know, so a lot of the bars have either found ways to get a business license for limited food, so that they can in fact stay open, or the places that have food already can stay open. But any place that does not have any food service at all had to close. And you know, you walk in with your mask on, you can take it off as long as you have a drink and food in your hand or in front of you. But the minute you get up to go to the bathroom or you get up to walk out, you have to put your mask back on. I mean, this is our new normal for God knows how long. We don't know.
Yeah, and I keep telling people this virus and the different strains that are out there now, you know, it's probably 8 strains now. It's going to be here for the next 5 years. So if you're thinking that way, you learn to deal with it now. And when it comes to the bars or the restaurants, if you weren't serving food to begin with, that's extra added income for you. That's simple bar rescue 101. You know, John Tapper would tell you that a successful bar is serving food. So if you weren't doing that, shame on you. That's stupid on you. You know, even when it comes to the movie theaters, I was telling them, I'm not going to go to the movie theaters. They're not ready. The movie theaters aren't releasing anything because there's nobody to go see the movies. So my question to you would be, would you go to the movies if you want to see something bad enough?
Oh, if I wanted to see something bad enough, probably. And I would probably do my best to do the whole social distancing thing. But there again, until they figure out exactly what they're going to do, I'd rather stay home.
Because everything is built that way now. I talked to Larry Namer. Larry Namer he's the founder of co-founder of E Entertainment. So he's been going to China and Russia the last 10 and 12 years. So he's always been on pedigree of things developing outside of everything. And I asked him, Larry, would you go to the movie theaters? He goes, no way. First of all, I'm high risk. But the second thing would be because I've seen how things would have to change. Plus, the third thing is you can watch everything from the comfort of your home now. And that is the case. Everything has changed that way too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have, you know, I have a jailbroken Fire Stick with Cody on it. Like, you know, there's ways around it. And frankly, with the way that production is moving, you know, they're looking for inexpensive content that they can get up quickly right now. And so that's the way production is going to be for the next few years, would be my guess, is we're going to see a lot of stuff that's shot cheaply and quickly so that it can get out to the general public as quickly as possible.
You know, even for me, you know, this is our 10th week of doing Zoom shows, 2, 3, sometimes 5 in a day. Had I had not done this, I wouldn't have gotten over the million view on YouTube. We already had it out of your home state, out of Tennessee. What are we? We're 3.7 million views a day and counting. Overall, we're 5.6. In another 5 or 6 days, we'll be at 5.7. So had I had not taken advantage of this, but I did see it coming, I just didn't know what the name of the virus is going to be. Had I had not converted to Zoom and Skype, which I don't particularly care for, I wouldn't have gotten over the hump of 1 million views. But I'll take it because this is what we have to do. It's not going away, telecommunications.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was already doing, Skype auditions on a regular basis anyway. So Zoom is a better platform. So I'm thankful that, we have it. But yeah, I mean, things are going to change. That's just the way it is. And they have changed.
What was your feelings on when the first time you had to put a mask on? What was that like for you?
It was annoying, but it is what it is. Like, it was not fun to breathe in, especially in, dry, hot weather.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You don't have a choice. And I mean, at first, obviously, it was kind of a choice, Now more and more places are requiring a mask, and they'll say flat out, no mask, no service. And I've had people actually thank me for putting on my mask before I walked in. And I'm like, no, if it's the rule here, it's the rule. Like, I'm not out to give you a hard time. And I know that a lot of people do give them a hard time, and that's sad. It doesn't hurt anybody to follow a rule.
Yeah. I mean, here's luckily, the thing, it's still, now it boils down to safety. We have 140,000 people deaths in the US and still counting. So it's about really your safety now. But I do like the handmade masks that people are getting created, because people started a side business, and good for them. Any income coming into people that really need it, good for you, because you're gonna need it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, my uncle and his wife actually have a little side business making masks. I just actually was going to order another one from somebody else who makes them as well, because I'm trying to, help stimulate people and make sure that, they don't lose their place to live or what have you. Make sure that they can eat, because we're all in this together, whether we want to be or not. So, instead of ordering a mask from, God knows where, if you have somebody that is hand making them and is selling them, please, people, please support your friend, your family member, stranger. I don't care, but support other people, because they're doing the same thing we are. They're trying to survive.
What was your feeling like when you got the notification that you were going to be an AVN Hall of Famer? And what was it like when you received that?
It was awesome, because I had actually lobbied for it for the last 5 years. I wouldn't leave them alone about it. And I was honored. I actually owe a huge thank you to one of my favorite people, Michael Federosi. He is AVN's attorney and a dear friend, and he also was in my corner on that the whole time. So Michael, if you happen to see this, I just want you to know that I thank you and I love you for being in my corner all the time. You're awesome. But getting that email was amazing. And having my name announced as a Hall of Fame performer for the telecast was really, really cool.
So what was it like when you first started to where you are now? For those people that don't know who you are, how did you first get into business, and then why did you get in?
So I was a dancer first. I actually started dancing on the same shift as my mom back home in Memphis. And I kept seeing feature entertainers come through, and feature entertainers were usually either magazine models or porn stars or both. And I decided that I wanted to do it. So I started doing just magazine work and beauty pageants first. And I learned very quickly that gets expensive, and it doesn't really get you the pay raise that you want. So I went to Hollywood and made the transition into movies and just didn't look back. And there you go. I took a 7-year hiatus and then came back in 2011, and it's changed a lot. I mean, a lot. Like, you know, when I was really getting into all of this, the internet was new. I was one of the first girls to actually have a website. Like back then, not every girl had one. You know, now everybody has one, but you know, only so many of us actually did the whole internet thing. You know, I was one of the people who first wired their homes with cameras and had, you know, spy cams on 24/7. So, you know, I've always embraced technology. But that said, there's times where I'm like, holy crap, this stuff has gone like way crazier and way more difficult than I remember.
How did you get your name, and what separated you from other performers? Why did your fans like you?
So my name actually came from a couple of things. My first agent had a niece named KiKi. I think her actual name was something else, but they all called her KiKi. And for whatever reason, they thought we were similar. So KiKi was something that was brought up to me. And at the time, there were no other KiKis at all. So I knew that that was a good bet, right? Well, then somebody wanted me to name myself Daire. And I was like, no, that's way too hard to say. And, you know, people, no. So I always liked Barbara Dare. So I chose Dare and just chose a kind of off spelling, which I wish I hadn't have done, but it is what it is. You learn some things the hard way. It's not in the adult business. Most of the adult performers were kind of sticks with tits. Like, you know, the body was typically large boobs, you know, narrow hips, and blonde. Well, I'm naturally a brunette. I was told I had to dye my hair, which I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, just hair. But I was different because I was really the first girl with a booty that became prominent. I was also one of the few women that was able to go between gonzo work and feature work effortlessly. I mean, I did a ton of both. I worked for everybody. You know, back then most girls were either feature girls and were really boring, or they were gonzo girls and they were wild. So I kind of bridged the gap. And even though on features, sometimes I would get told to, you know, tone it down a little bit, I still brought that kind of, you know, gonzo energy where it was like, all right, let's get in here and do this, and let's get crazy and have fun and, you know, sexy and just go for it.
We got about 2 minutes. So you also went back to school to get a degree. Talk about that.
Yeah, I have a degree in world religion with a minor in classical studies, and I'm currently
that's not
going
normal.
to. No, it's not. I look at religion as kind of a must understand because it's a huge motivator for the vast majority of society and its members. So to me, in order to understand people, you have to understand their belief system. That said, I'm also I'm doing online courses at the moment to become a graphics operator for live broadcast.
Good for you.
So, you know, yeah, so constantly learning.
Hey, if you're not constantly learning, you're dying, because you have to be, you know, always continue to grow, always continue to have that knowledge. It keeps you relevant. Last question. Give your social media links for your fans out there and people who will be watching this to get to know you for the first time. And then the last question would be, what do you see for the future for you?
So you can find me on Twitter at KiKi_Dare. That's KiKi_DAIRE. You can also find me on OnlyFans, onlyfans.com/KiKi_Dare. That's the place where I update with my new content. You can order customs there. You can chat with me. And it's really me. So that's a great way to get to know me. I do have an Instagram. It's KiKi Dare _. And really, those are the best places right now. As far as what's coming up, I see myself continuing to work on my OnlyFans for the foreseeable future. And I also see myself going back to doing live broadcasts whenever they come back.
Okay, well, you're prepared for stuff. You are that visionary. You always are growing. You're a sweet girl, but you're also a tough girl. You don't want to get her angry because that's not good. So, so with that,
You know, everybody
KiKi, I want to thank you because there's only one of you, and I always loved the name. And I never knew how you had the name because it's unusual, but it's actually pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I chose it because I wanted unusual. I wanted to be the only KiKi.
Well, you are the only one. All right. I want to thank you, my friend KiKi Dare. You got her website links, social media links. You got a little bit of history of where she came from and what she's doing and what she's creating, and that's really special. So for KiKi, this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, the Women's Broadcast TV Network, IT247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. And if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. And we'll see you next week.